I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, staring at my phone, trying to process what I just saw. It's like my mind is refusing to accept the reality. But every time I close my eyes, I see it again. Her, Sarah, with that bastard Dean Johnson, caught in a moment I never thought I'd witness in my life. We've been married for 10 years, and I thought we had a decent, if not perfect, relationship. Sure, there were little signs, missing phone calls, odd messages, late nights, but I brushed them off as work stuff or her being busy with the kids. You know how it is. You tell yourself it's nothing. And maybe deep down I didn't want to face the truth because facing it meant admitting that my wife, was capable of doing something so disgusting. It all started about 2 weeks ago. Sarah had signed us up for her daughter Emily's college tour. Emily's a good girl, smart, a little spoiled, but mostly a decent kid. Sarah was excited about it. She kept talking about scholarship opportunities, campus life, and how Emily just needs a little help to get into the right school. I was busy that day, running around with work, so I told her I'd meet them later. When I finally got there, I parked my car and headed into the campus, expecting to see my wife and daughter walking around, maybe grabbing some lunch, having a normal day. But what I saw instead, well, it knocked me out of my shoes. I was just about to call Sarah and tell her I was here when I saw her in the administrative office. At first, I thought she was just talking to some staff, maybe discussing Emily's scholarship options or just asking questions. But then I saw her. She was pressed up against someone. Her back was to me, but I could see her hand on his leg and he was leaning into her. I swear my blood ran cold. I froze there, watching as they kissed, deep, desperate kisses that I can't even describe. It was obvious they weren't just talking or discussing anything. It was raw, intense, and completely inappropriate. The assistant dean, Dean Johnson, walked into the room unexpectedly, and I saw her jerk back, trying to compose herself, but it was too late. They were caught in an intimate embrace, right there in the admin office. I couldn't believe it. All these years I'd trusted her completely, and in that moment I realized she'd been lying to my face all this time. She insisted she was discussing scholarship opportunities, like that's all it was. Yeah, right. As if you get that turned on just talking about college stuff. I watched her lie through her teeth, trying to brush it off when I confronted her later. She told me she was just helping him with some application details, that it meant nothing, that I was overreacting. But I saw what I saw, and I knew that this was just the tip of the iceberg. The worst part is she's a bitch about it, always has been. She's manipulative, can lie effortlessly, and she's got that "I don't give a damn" attitude that makes me want to scream sometimes. She told me I was making a big deal out of nothing, that I was insecure, that she's not some fool who sleeps around. But I know better now. I've always known she's been distant lately. She's been colder, more dismissive, and there were little things. Forgotten anniversaries, secretive texts, her phone always in her bag no matter what, but I never imagined she'd do something this blatant in broad daylight. Honestly, I felt sick for days afterward. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The image of her lips on his, the way she was clutching him like she needed him, that picture haunted me. I kept replaying it in my head over and over. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, some kind of misunderstanding, but I knew better. I saw the way she looked at him, like she was starved for something she wasn't getting from me. That realization hit me hard. And then I started thinking about what to do next. How do you confront the woman who's supposed to be your partner for life and find out she's been cheating on you with some college kid right under your nose? I wasn't just angry, I was furious. But I also felt humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool for years. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to lose my mind over it. I needed a plan, something cold, calculated, because I wasn't about to be the guy who gets cheated on and does nothing. No, I was going to get answers, and when I was done, she'd regret ever doing this to me. I need to tell you, I never cried, but that day I was this close. My stomach was twisting, my head was pounding, and I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. That's where I am now, trying to figure out how I got here and what I'm supposed to do next. After I saw her with him, everything felt like it went into slow motion. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe right. My mind was racing, trying to process what I'd just witnessed, trying to piece together how long she'd been doing this behind my back, and most importantly, trying to decide what the hell I was supposed to do now. I stood there in the parking lot, barely able to hold myself upright, staring at my phone like I was waiting for a sign from the universe to tell me what to do. But all I saw was her face, that smug look she always had when she was lying or hiding something. I knew then I couldn't just confront her without proof. I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just burst in and yell or accuse her blindly. That make me look desperate, and honestly I was feeling pretty damn desperate already. I started thinking about what I knew about her, what I could use as leverage. She's always been stubborn, manipulative, and good at covering her tracks, but even the best liars slip up sometimes. I remembered how she'd been acting the past few weeks, more distant, secretive, always on her phone. She started working late more often, claiming it was important meetings, but I knew better now. That night I went home and didn't say a word. I just sat there trying to gather my thoughts. I kept replaying that scene in my head, wishing I could erase it but knowing I wouldn't. I was angry, hurt, humiliated, every emotion piled on top of each other. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut multiple times. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that, right in her own daughter's college tour? I kept asking myself if I'd missed the signs or if I'd been blind all along. The next day, I decided I needed to find out everything. I started with her phone. My gut told me she was hiding things. I snooped through her messages, her emails, even her deleted ones. And what I found, it was worse than I thought. There were messages exchanged with Dean Johnson, not just about college stuff, but explicit talk, flirtatious texts, and plans to meet again. She'd been lying to me for months. I also found some receipts for hotel bookings she'd made under a fake name, supposedly for business trips. But there was no way she was traveling for work. She'd been sneaking around, and I had the proof now. That night I couldn't hold it in anymore. I sat her down, told her I knew everything. Her reaction was so typical, defensive, bitchy, trying to brush everything off like I was overreacting. She told me I was just paranoid and jealous, that I was imagining things. She called me insecure for doubting her, and then she threw in that typical line about how she deserves better and she's not some stupid little girl. I wanted to punch her, but I stayed calm. At least I tried to. Inside, I was boiling. When I pushed her for answers, she spun some bullshit about how it was just sex, that he was just some stupid college kid she was helping. She said she never meant to hurt me, that it was just a mistake, that she was bored and didn't know how to get out of it. Yeah, I bought that about as much as I'd buy a used car from a scam artist. She's always been good at lying, and now she was lying right in my face. She kept insisting she didn't love him, that it was just some stupid thing she did out of boredom because I'd been so busy with work and the kids. She painted herself out to be some victim, like I was the bad guy for catching her. Honestly, I felt sick listening to her. Every word felt like a slap in the face. The woman I married, my partner, was out there cheating on me with some kid from her daughter's college, and she was trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. She kept crying, saying she was sorry, that she'd never do it again, that she loved me. But I wasn't stupid. I knew better. I'd seen the signs. I'd seen her coldness, her lies, her secret phone calls. This wasn't just some fling. It was something she'd planned, something she'd hidden for months. I remember feeling this intense mixture of sadness and rage. How did I let it get to this point? How did I not see it coming? I always prided myself on being a good husband, on trusting her, and now I felt like such a fool. I started to think about all the moments I'd dismissed, all the times I'd given her the benefit of the doubt. And now I just felt emptier than I ever have before. I didn't cry, but my chest was tight and I could feel the weight of betrayal crushing me. That night I didn't sleep. I was awake most of it, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what my next move would be. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after what I'd seen and found. But I also knew I needed to be strategic. I couldn't just walk away without a plan. I'd been betrayed, yes. But I was also furious, and I wasn't about to let her think she'd get away with this. I had to come up with a way to make her see that I wasn't just some naive husband. I was done being the sidekick in her game, and if she thought she could play me, she was dead wrong. The next few days were a blur of planning and disbelief. Every time I looked at her, I saw that smirk she always wore when she was hiding something. I couldn't get that image out of my head, and it made me want to tear her apart, emotionally, mentally, whatever it took. I knew I had to be careful, though. Confronting her in a rush would only make things worse. I had to get more evidence, more clarity on how deep this betrayal went, and most importantly, I needed to figure out what I was actually going to do. I decided to install a hidden audio recorder in the house, not because I wanted to spy on her endlessly, but because I needed proof, something that would hold up if I decided to confront her publicly, or even if I wanted to take legal action later. I planted it in the living room, where she spent a lot of her time, and waited. Every day I watched her, noting how she acted. Differently, more tense, more defensive. She'd still try to act normal, but I could see right through her. The usual bitchiness was sharper, her eyes darted around more. She was nervous, and I knew she was worried I was catching on. And then I got the proof I needed. One night I was lying on the couch pretending to watch TV. I hit record on my phone, and what I heard, oh man, was enough to make my blood boil. She was on the phone with some friend, but at one point I clearly overheard her talking about Dean Johnson, saying she was done playing around and ready for the next step. She also mentioned how she can't wait to get rid of her husband, and there was a lot of talk about sneaking out, meeting up, and ending our relationship. It was all there, proof of her planning to leave, probably for good, or at least for Dean. That was the moment I knew I had to confront her again. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I was also starting to feel like I couldn't trust her with anything anymore. Every little thing she said or did seemed like a lie. I was angry, but I was also hurt. You spend 10 years building something solid, then find out she's been betraying you with a college kid while you're out working your ass off and trying to give your family a good life. It felt like a punch in the gut every single time I thought about it. So, I set a trap. I decided to catch her in the act. If she was going to keep lying, I'd force her to face the truth head on. I told her I was going out for a business dinner, but I actually parked across the street in my car and watched her. She went out that night, dressed up, acting all innocent like she was just going to meet some friends. I saw her get into Dean Johnson's car. Again, that sick feeling came over me. She was so brazen about it now, like she didn't care who knew or what I thought. I stayed in my car and waited until she was gone. Then I went inside and looked through her stuff, her purse, her phone, her emails. I found even more damning evidence, photos, messages, plans. She was planning to leave me, probably that same night or the next day. It was all right there in black and white, and I felt like my world was falling apart again. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. She'd been cheating on me for months, and I had no idea. When she came back the next morning, I was sitting in the living room, cold as ice. She looked surprised, like she thought she'd gotten away with it. I just looked at her, and she started stumbling over excuses. Again, that same act she'd been running for days. But I was done listening. I'd seen enough. I told her I knew everything about the messages, the plans, the hotel stays, everything. Her face twisted into this ugly expression of guilt and defiance, but I didn't care. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and I was done with her bullshit. Her reaction was classic. She snapped at me, calling me paranoid, insecure, and crazy. She told me I was overreacting, that I should just forget it and move on. She tried the poor me act, crying and saying she loved me, that she didn't want to hurt our daughter or me. But I knew better. I saw the hate in her eyes, the contempt she had for me in all her lies. I realized she'd been playing me for fools, twisting everything around to make herself look innocent. That moment, I decided I had to do something drastic. I couldn't stay with a woman who betrayed me like that. I started planning the next steps, legal advice, how to get her out, how to protect myself and my kids. The truth was, I felt broken, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I finally had clarity. She'd been a bitch for a long time, always putting herself first, lying, manipulating, and now she just proved that she was capable of destroying everything we built. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. Not after seeing her with him, not after the lies, not after the betrayal. It's a shitty situation, and honestly, I don't know what the future holds. But one thing, for sure, she's not going to get away with this without consequences. and I'm finally ready to face whatever comes next. After gathering all the evidence, I knew I couldn't delay confronting her again. The truth was out, and her carefully constructed alibis had crumbled. I felt a strange mix of relief and disgust. Relief because I finally knew the full extent of her lies, and disgust because I'd wasted so much time believing in her, in us. But this wasn't just about feeling betrayed anymore. It was about taking control and deciding how to salvage what's left, or walk away completely. I couldn't live with the idea of her sneaking around, lying, and essentially destroying everything we had. I sat her down again that evening. She was visibly nervous, eyes darting around, trying to come up with some excuse or sob story to save herself. I didn't let her speak much. I just laid out everything I had found: texts, emails, hotel receipts, recordings. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. She spat out some lies, said the messages were just flirtatious banter, that Dean Johnson was just a friend helping with college stuff, and that I was overthinking everything. She kept insisting she never loved him, that it was just sex, that it was meaningless. I looked right into her eyes and told her I didn't buy a single word. That's when the bitchiness really came out. She started turning on me, calling me possessive, paranoid, and insecure. Again, that classic move. But I wasn't falling for it. I was too pissed off. I told her I knew she'd been cheating on me for months and I'd had enough. I told her I'd been watching her every move, listening to her lies, and I wasn't going to put up with her bullshit anymore. I told her she'd better decide what she wanted, because her lies and her betrayal had consequences. Her reaction: she got angry, really angry, started yelling at me, saying I was ruining her life, that I was controlling, and that she deserved to be happy. She threw in the whole I was just bored, you don't understand me, and that I was holding her hostage. I couldn't believe how narcissistic she was being. She acted like she was the victim, like I was the villain. Honestly, part of me just wanted to shake her and tell her to get real. She had no remorse, no guilt, just that bitchy attitude that makes my blood boil even now. While she was yelling at me, I couldn't help but notice how she kept smirking, like she thought she was winning, like she was so clever with her lies. That made me even angrier. I'd seen her true face now, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her she needed to pack her things, that I wanted her gone by the weekend. She started crying then, full-on tears, but I didn't care. It was all an act anyway. She's good at crying on cue, but I knew it was just another lie to save herself. That night I stayed up, obsessively scrolling through everything I'd found. I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner, for trusting her blindly. How could I have missed all the signs? The late nights, the secret phone calls, the weird messages. She'd been sneaking around behind my back, and I'd been too blind to see it. Every part of me was hurting: anger, sadness, betrayal. I kept thinking about all the times I'd defended her, tried to make her look good, and now I realized I'd been a damn idiot. By morning, I'd decided I'd had enough. I made a plan to talk to a lawyer, to get the legal stuff in order. I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for her to come home and lie her way out of everything. I was done being the fool. I was done being the last to know. The only thing I wanted now was to get her out, protect my kids, and start healing from what felt like a wound that would never fully close. But even as I prepared for the worst, I was still haunted by that image of her in the admin office, pressed up against Dean Johnson, her lips on his. That image was burned into my mind, and I knew that no matter what I did, I'd never forget it. It's like she's etched herself into my soul now, and I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from this. All I know is that I won't let her destroy me without a fight. I've got to stay strong for me, for my kids, and figure out what the hell my life is supposed to look like after this. The day I finally made the decision to move forward was one of the hardest in my life. I spent the night tossing and turning, trying to figure out how to handle everything, and by morning I knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. I couldn't keep living in this giant mess of lies, betrayal, and emotional chaos. I called up a lawyer first thing. I needed someone to tell me how to protect myself legally, how to get her out of the house, and how to make sure I had everything covered. It was all so overwhelming, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't let her manipulate her way out of this, not anymore. While I was on the phone with the lawyer, I started packing a bag for myself, just in case. I didn't want to leave everything to her, her lies, her deceit, her manipulative attitude. I wanted to be ready for whatever came next. I felt like I was in a war I didn't sign up for, and I needed to be prepared for the worst. All the while, I kept telling myself I'd be okay, that I'd get through this, no matter how much it hurt. I had to tell the kids. That was the hardest part. Emily, my daughter, sensed something was wrong. She could see the tension, the anger in my eyes. I sat her down, told her that Mom and I were having some problems and that we needed to take some time apart. I didn't go into details. She's only 18, and I didn't want to hurt her more than I already had. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and asked if everything was her fault. I wanted to lie and say no, but I knew she deserved the truth. So I told her that sometimes adults make mistakes and that we were trying to work through it. I promised her I loved her and I'd always be there for her no matter what. Sarah, of course, tried to manipulate the situation. She came home that day pretending to be all broken and remorseful. She begged me to give her another chance, said she made a terrible mistake, and that she'd do anything to fix things. She looked so pathetic, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling. I could see through her act instantly. I knew she was just trying to save herself, to keep her way out of trouble. I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her to leave. I told her she was done, she'd crossed every line, and I wasn't going to let her step over me anymore. That moment was a turning point. I finally felt like I was taking control, even if it was only in small steps. The house felt emptier, quieter. It was like I could finally breathe again, even though inside I was a mess. My mind kept circling back to everything: how I'd trusted her, how I'd loved her, and how she'd turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize anymore. It was like waking up from a dream, only to realize it was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I started planning my next moves: how to protect myself financially, how to get her out legally, how to make sure she wouldn't ruin me in the end. I knew she'd fight dirty, she always did. That bitch had a way of twisting everything around, so I had to be careful. I also started reaching out to friends, family, anyone who could give me support. I wasn't going to go through this alone. I needed allies, people who knew what she was capable of, who could tell me what steps to take. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but think about what this all meant for my future. I'd spent so many years building a life with her, our home, our family, and now it felt like that was all falling apart. But maybe, just maybe, it was the wake-up call I needed. I had been so blind, so naive, believing her lies. Now I saw her true face, and I knew I'd never trust her again. Not fully. Not after what she did. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I had to rebuild, not just physically, but emotionally. I had to find a way to move past the betrayal and reclaim my life. I still remember the look in her eyes when she realized I was serious about leaving. That cold, calculated glare she gets when she knows she's losing control. That was the moment I decided I wouldn't be the fool anymore. I was done playing her game. I was finally taking back what was mine, and I was going to do whatever it took to put this behind me. It's going to be a long road, I know that, but I also know I won't let her destroy me without a fight. My dignity, my sanity, and my future are worth fighting for, even if every part of me still aches with betrayal. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal chaos and emotional exhaustion. I moved out of the house, carefully arranging everything to protect my rights and ensure that she couldn't manipulate the situation further. The lawyer helped me file for divorce, and to my surprise, she didn't put up much of a fight. I think the reality of how exposed she was finally caught up with her, and she knew she'd pushed her luck too far. Still, her bitchy attitude lingered. Every time I saw her or spoke to her, she'd throw some snide comment trying to undermine me or make me feel guilty. But I was done feeling guilty. I'd seen her true nature and I'd made my peace with walking away from it all. I can't deny, I felt broken. Betrayal like this leaves scars, and I'd never fully trust anyone again. But I also felt stronger. The kind of strength that comes from realizing you're better off without a person who would do something so cruel. I started focusing on my kids, on healing, and rebuilding my life. The shock wears off, and the pain slowly transforms into a kind of bittersweet acceptance. I don't wake up every day thinking about her anymore. Instead, I focus on my future, on what I want for myself and my kids, and I try to move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to face betrayal, to stand up for myself, and to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve my loyalty or love. I've come to see that sometimes the best way to fight back is to walk away and rebuild your life on your own terms. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I refuse to let that define me. To anyone out there dealing with something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want to believe in the best. Confront the truth head-on, and don't be afraid to walk away if you've been betrayed. It hurts, yeah, but staying in a toxic or dishonest relationship will destroy you slowly. I've learned that the hard way. Be strong, protect yourself, and remember that you deserve honesty and respect. Sometimes the biggest act of love you can give yourself is walking away from someone who only drags you down. In the end, I'm grateful I found out when I did. It hurt like hell, but it also freed me. I'm picking up the pieces now, slowly but surely. My life will never be the same, and maybe that's a good thing. Because now I know what real betrayal looks like, and I know I won't let anyone do that to me again. I've learned to trust myself more than ever before. That's what matters most.